If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, AlieNation podcast? Appreciate all of my listeners as always. Recently, I put out a podcast with Miss Allison McDowell regarding the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Great Reset, basically the AI revolution. I got my friend James here. He's going to be a frequent guest. I'm gonna cut out the kind of community expansion aspect of this. As far as community expansion, I'm gonna be attempting to do that through offline networks. Basically, I've talked about it a little bit at the end of the podcast with Allison, how I'm starting an organization, basically a recreational organization about cornhole, hacky sack, frisbee, washers, basically just like a fun and games type of organization where people can just come together, have fun, be human, enjoy each other's company. But the reason I wanted to get James on today was, number one, we share, I feel like as far as anybody that I've grown up with, anybody that I've done a podcast with, as far as my friends and family, we share a lot of the same sentiments regarding, whether it be COVID or just our approach to life in general, a day-to-day grind. Our worldviews are very similar, and so I do want to have him on a little bit more often, whether it's via Zoom call or, fortunately, tonight I actually have him here with me. But tonight I already told him a little bit, like, I'm kind of trying to do a reset with the podcast itself. I want to kind of critique myself, figure out what I want to do with the podcast moving forward, because I'm not sure. I think my best episodes have not been about community expansion. They've been about trying to get as much information as possible and get that shared with my friends and my audience. And so I think some of the best episodes have actually been the Ben Stewart episode, the Human Vibration episode, the episode with Chris Spiracy, a fellow podcast host, as well as the Allison McDowell podcast, all four of which were not really aimed at community expansion, but rather aimed at we're addressing our worldview and the importance of worldview. And then, with the exception of the Conspiracy episode, all three of those other guests kind of had their own specialty, as far as Ben Stewart is kind of like a spiritual teacher, coach, yogi type. Allison is more of a specialist or expert almost, I would say, in my opinion, when it comes to the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Great Reset. Human Vibration understands color psychology, deep fakes, this sort of angle at the conspiracy realm, so to speak. And then Conspiracy is a fellow podcast host who has had a great run recently. I really enjoy listening to his podcast, and I think he's gotten these kind of higher profile guests on without worrying about so much like with me. I've kind of been focused on building the community with my friends, with my homies, but I'm kind of at a point where I want to start, I don't want to stop building my community, but as far as the podcast is concerned, I want to keep that more dense and substance based, and then take the community expansion stuff offline to the cornhole and the fun and games organization that I'm getting off the ground right now. But anyways, I say all of that to say thanks for coming on today, James. Based on what I've said so far, what do you think I can do to improve the podcast? I've already mentioned I want to have you on more often. I think if you want it, I'm going to invite you to kind of be a co-host, because I feel like I don't want to do the podcast as often. I know you can't do it as often as I wanted to originally, but if I'm going to be slowing the pace of it, then maybe we'll actually be able to connect and get it done on a not a super frequent basis, but once or twice a month, put something out there, because we're the type of people that evolve. So even, between the last time you were on this podcast and now, you're a different person. I'm a different person. We've learned so much. And in this world where, what I would call the information age, you can't be stagnant in your knowledge. You have to always be willing to challenge yourself and be willing to admit you're wrong when you're wrong. And that's the only way to sharpen yourself. It's the only way to grow as a human, in my opinion. And so, yeah, man, just kind of want to hear your thoughts about the Allison McDowell podcast, and then any updates on your own life between the last time you were on and now. And then what you think I can do as far as improving the podcast from an overall big picture perspective.
Awesome. Happy to be back. Another pod, getting into a place. Well, first of all, happy to be here. Thanks, G. Hello, AlieNation. Appreciate welcome being back. And I want to say up front, allergies is kicking my tail around this time of the year, so you might hear me clear my throat and do some of that annoying stuff that I would think is annoying, but bear with me, community. So but yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I find intriguing when I listen to the AlieNation pod, and as G likes to know, I like to go through some of the recent ones that have been posted to YouTube channels, and you get to really see the comments, and it's doing exactly what it should be doing, which is causing thought-provoking dialogue. And that, if you're doing that in itself, it's doing its job. So it's hard to say what could be shifted or changed or anything. It's all a learning, a growing, and an evolving process. From our first one that we did to seeing some of the guests that you've gotten on, Human Vibration and Conspiracy, and most recently Allison McDowell, and the Ben Stewart one, which was personally to me a great one. One that really resonated with me. And everyone brings something different. And what I notice in this is when you are bringing fresh perspectives, open minds, open dialogues, and the people that I share it with that might not have been involved early on in the process, or has questions, and so a lot, as I've learned, a lot of people share in the same sentiment in a lot of ways, but they don't know how to express it or talk about it or have a place to have that be their outlet. And in a world that's ever evolving, in a world that's shifting toward podcasts and perspectives and people wanting to listen to other perspectives, and
I like the world view. I use that word a lot on here. I've been trying to use it even more because I feel like the word itself encompasses everything that I want this podcast to be about, which is exploring, sharing, and refining your worldview. Like, one thing that is kind of funny, it's like I brag about it, but it's like probably one of the weirdest things anybody could ever brag about is like I brag about the fact that I'm willing to be wrong.
Right.
And most people, they're just so righteous. It's like, dude, why don't you just talk about what you think you're right about and let somebody smarter than you show you how you're wrong so that you can make yourself better. That's the only way to make yourself better is to be wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like within beauty too, imperfections. It's like those things are the things that you should embrace as well. I mean, it's what makes us human. It's what makes things authentic. It's what makes things real. That's what I really liked about for some of the young cats. Everyone knows if you've heard me speak, I love hip hop, I love rap, and some of the young cats that have come up that just embrace that more that raw and authentic sound. Some of the music doesn't even sound finished, but it's raw, it's early, it's authentic, it's it's human, it's what it's supposed to be. It's not read from a script, as we know a lot of things are, a lot of things that we hear and watch are, and and that sort of thing. But it's what being human is all about. you know, and there's a lot of forces out here trying to change that human experience in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it seems like the more that happens, the more we try to be more human. A lot of us, you know, from even rough cuts of music and podcast takes, and it's something that I love about, you know, Kanye in a sense. It's, you know, he releases. I've never seen someone release an album. It was basically unfinished, and then over time he was tweaking it over time. Never seen an artist do that before, and you could hear it from what you heard from the sonics and the sounds in the unfinished of the first version to where it's at now on to the Life of Pablo. It's different, you know, and I love that because that's real. And that's something that AlieNation is bringing. It's bringing people from a world that we aren't so far away from. We sharing a lot of the same views, thoughts, whether it's a little different, a little off, a little whatever the case may be. Can I interrupt though? Yeah.
Because I love Kanye too, you know. But at the same time, as someone that likes to challenge my own beliefs and my own prejudices, my own thoughts and feelings,
right?
You know, what do you think? You know, I know we're both huge B.O.B. fans too,
of course.
And you know that song, "The Watchers,"
right?
He says, you know, no one man should have all that power, obviously, because there's only one power. But never mind, y'all keep worshiping towers. Is that a subtle dig at Kanye? I mean, what do you?
It's hip hop. It's a wordplay. Mm-hmm. You know, he's taken something that was a very strong statement in hip hop. Even to this day, no one man should have that much power. People say it all the time, or think it, or say it, or associate it with something that's real. And he flipped it into his own, which is what a good lyricist or artist should do.
It's art. That's what I really wanted to get to. Is because Kanye to me, he's a great artist. And an artist is never imprisoned by their own worldview. You know, your worldview, if you're growing, then that means your worldview is going to grow. And then I want to even break down the word a little bit more. I meant to the first time I brought it up, but worldview. It's the way in which you view the world. Or literally, like, when I think about it just from like a present moment standpoint, is like, it's literally the filter by which I see the world. Because literally all of us are seeing, all we're seeing is light and reflections of light.
Yep.
And we have these names that we've agreed, these sounds in our head, and we've created an entire world. You know, this table, this computer, this microphone, this beer can. Like, all of that is just agreements. All those sounds and words I just made, those are just agreements that we've made because we speak English, you know? And I think that's just a level of awareness that I want to bring to everyone, because I feel like a lot of people live in their language and they don't see. And that's the part, that's the part of the word worldview. The view is like the lens through which you see the world, you know? And to me, what I, you know, maybe this is egotistical of me, or you know, whatever, narcissistic of me or whatever, but I believe that part of, you know, everybody, like Allison said, and Human Vibration said it, I think Ben Stewart said it, everybody has their place in this machine.
Yeah.
And I feel like my place, and Allison kind of alluded to it too, is like, what she's saying is she's not trying to tell people how to see the world, right. But what she does want to do is she wants to take the fogginess, or what I would call the lies,
right,
out of it.
Right. I remember Conspiracy
she wants to help you just see clearly. We want, and all people like us, just want to help people see clearly. Whether you agree with me or not, it really isn't important, because we're seeing the same thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's what Conspiracy touched on it too. It's something that stood out to me in that episode you did with him. Shout out to Conspiracy. That was a great episode. And
I shouldn't say agreement isn't important. I just think that respect is more important.
Of course. But that's how it should be. You know, going back to what I was saying, one of the things in the Conspiracy episode that he stated on was, you find yourself when you first start to get and understand a lot of this, you want everyone to know, and you're focused on, hey, you know, why aren't you thinking and seeing it how I'm seeing it? How could you not see this? And you're going at friends, you're going at people, you know, like you know, even like me and my dad have had dialogue where it's like, man, let me just tone it back a little bit, because you realize where you realize at this point when you have done your research and your studies and you start to delve into many other branches of this tree, that is truth, that is quote unquote conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, which, as I always state after the fact, there's so many things at this point that just it's just information. It's out there. It's not like
the reason I fell in love with Ben Stewart's work is actually a line his brother said on his documentary Climatica. He said, "Information is just information."
That was an early one for you, G. Climatica. You were hip to that early. You were
that was 09, 2010, yeah.
Yep.
And still highly recommend that documentary to anybody.
Yep.
But information is just information. Like, what makes anyone an authority on this is good or bad information?
Or this is it. This is it right here. It all be all or whatever.
You know?
No, like you said.
I saw a quote today. It just summed it up perfectly. It's like, I'd rather have a question that I couldn't answer than an answer that I couldn't question.
Interesting.
I mean, that's just perfect right there. You know what I mean? That's explain. That quote epitomizes what I want to do with this podcast. Is just, I'm never going to tell anybody else how I think they should think. I will share my worldview, and I think I'm free to do that.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to make anybody agree with me, but I am the type of person that wants to share the way that I see the world, especially because I see love in everything, even in what some people would call like the worst shit ever. If God is going to put you through that, if life is going to put you through that, then that means, number one, you are meant to go through that, and number two, when you learn to see that darkness or those horrible moments as a teacher,
teaching lesson,
and you learn, then you grow. And
people get hip to that at different points, though. You know.
Yeah.
And whether it's from playing the role of victimhood, or whether it's from, and I'm not saying that there's different levels to everyone's story. I understand that. We should all understand that. But we are living in an interesting time where there's a lot of special things happening. Now, there's a lot of bad intentions with these special things that are happening, but there's a lot of things happening with technology and connecting, and the ability to use these things as resources to find and seek truth and understanding, and find what exactly your role is in this whole thing, or help you figure that out, because comes in different forms. Sometimes it comes in life and experiences, and it's, for some people, dreams. There's a lot of things that lead you to it, but there's always forces working, good and positive forces that are working to push you in that direction. And it's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, you know, I've got my degree and I've got my job and I've got this and I've got that. There's so many more layers to it. What this forum does, G, is it introduces and opens people up to those other layers.
Like, what's important? What is important? What are we doing here? What is our purpose?
I don't care how hot of a hand you got in the sports betting world. I don't care how good you're doing in crypto right now, or in the market or whatever. There's people that's at the top of the food chain, right, in the top of the pyramid right now.
Dude,
that are
we were
empty
just talking about it at
and
dinner.
Lost because they have not been able to peel back that other layer.
Exactly.
This is where those layers, those voids that people out here, that kids out here, that people out here might be missing or feeling or whatever. That is what this is for. That's what this is about. That's why it will be special no matter how far it goes. And I do believe it will go far, because this is real shit.
Yeah.
And when you start to tap into shit that matters, real things, conversations, dialogues, things that are pushing mindsets, biotechnology, AI, down to DNA, cellular level things, the conversations go so many different places.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before dinner and then at dinner even. I think the conversation came up a couple times where it's like currency is not just money. You know, I will never downplay the importance of money
for sure,
because it provides access to things that we all need.
Right.
Now, there is a certain level where you got what you need and you're just accessing status or something superfluous.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like I was telling you, my friend Dubs and I were talking, and he's like, yeah, I mean, you know, say you get to the top as far as money, you know, say you get all the money that you think, you say you're, you know, you reach 10 digits, say you're a billionaire, right? Say you hit the dream, but along the way you had to step on all your friends and all your family to do that, and now you have nobody to share it with and nobody likes you.
Right.
So you really have nowhere that you've got this ability to access all this energy, you know, essentially whether it's recreational energy or food for your family. Right. Nobody cares because nobody wants to fuck with you. You know what I mean?
That's why it's interesting, G. You don't usually see two of those
relationships
things
are currencies. Is currency.
Absolutely.
And money is currency too. I'm not promoting people to just say fuck money and just go and try to be friends with everybody. I think there is a balance to be struck, but at the same time, like, I do see an imbalance in both ways where there's a group of people that are like, fuck money. Everything about money and economics and business, those are bad people. Profit is bad.
Yeah, of course.
Capitalism is bad. And I mean, you know, there's some truths to that side, but there's also the other side where it's 100%. Like, you got to take care of yourself. Exactly. You can only give what you have.
Right.
You know, if you want to have real estate, that costs money. You know, if you know, renting even costs money. You know what I mean? So they've got us. You know what I mean? Unless you're in the families that are printing the money. You know.
You're trying to figure out.
But even then, you know, even if you're like at that level, then you've created your own problems. Now you're trying to figure out, how can I interact with the poors and have them not hate me for being rich? You know, it's created these crazy dynamics across classes.
But it's speaking of that though, I say often to myself, man, they've got just about every turn covered, don't they?
Well, I mean, the whole reason that conversation came up between us is because we were talking about Allison's podcast,
right?
And we were talking about how it's like, you know, both of us have significantly improved our financial status because of crypto.
Yeah.
However, we're not the type of people that are just going to ignore
the realities, the dark side
of
the
things. Digital slavery aspect of it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you know, it's just like I said on the podcast with Allison, it's like, okay, well, now that I've learned these things at the same time that I've significantly improved myself financially, okay, what's my option? Right. Am I going to sell it for $1?
Right.
Fuck no. You know, that's even worse, especially when you already have bank accounts that already have all of that KYC information and they're already tracking you anyway. Like, if you're a Wells Fargo bank account holder like I am, and don't get me wrong, I want to get out of it. I'm trying to move everything to a credit union, but when you have COVID and you're collecting unemployment because you're furloughed, it's like the traps are crazy how they get it. How they it's like a spider web, man.
That it's layered too.
Yeah.
And it's like when you think you're making a turn, there's something there that you got to get to the other part. And you get to the other part, and you gotta, there it goes. Another turn you have to make. It's, I say it all the time, like I was about to say, they've got a lot of those they got a lot of those interests covered. There's a lot of those interests are covered.
Why do you think it's okay, you know, they promote the money chase? It's another drug, you know. They don't want you. The thing, what I'm starting to see is what they don't want is for you to talk about what's my life purpose.
Right.
What they don't want is for these types of conversations to take place, and that's why I'm doing it. And that's why I'm doing it.
Self-realization, you know, understanding your calling, how to maneuver through it, how to become self-sufficient. Yeah, your purpose. You're right.
Yeah.
Listen, when you have those things tainted, it's just more opportunity for control. Or it's more opportunity to be plugged in. Because you're like, well, this is better than the other.
It's better than being broke.
Better than being broke.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Right.
I got a family to take care of, most people.
Right.
A family to take care of, got kids, got this, got that. It's all part of that cycle of that thinking. It's the perfect trap, G. I talk about it all the time. It really is. You know? I shake my head sometimes and I'm like, you sons of bitches, goddamn. But what else, what are you left with besides the hustle or looking at these different avenues that exist, these tools? It's like being thrown in the cage and getting tossed some tools, and you got these 3 tools to work with, these 4 tools to work with.
Right. I think it's balance, man. It's balance because you have to hustle, but you can't hustle to the point of
where you're lost in the sauce,
and where you lose and where you lose all the important relationships in your life because money was more important than your friends or your family, you know.
Or the community.
Everybody.
Right. I mean, everyone's working in the same direction. If you're better, and some people believe, well, you're better as a tribe. Like you always talk about that tribe, you know.
Yeah.
Imagine
trust.
what you can do.
We live in a very distrustful society. I mean, trust is another form of currency. We were talking about how money is just one form of currency, and you don't want to devalue it because it is a form of currency that, because so many people believe in it, it makes it more powerful. But that faith is what they don't see. They don't even see that their own faith is the power that's driving it. You know, if they were just to check their faith.
Which is interesting, though, because even before any stages of moving into this territory of knowledge and understanding it and the research and the readings and everything, I've always just naturally looked at it that way, though. Just naturally being like, I mean, we're the ones trading this product as a valued currency.
Right.
Of course it has power. What is it though? What are we talking about here?
Yep.
I've from a young kid from grade school, just kind of looking at it and thinking about it that way though, early. And I don't know, things come back full circle, and you know, it makes sense of why these stages happen that have moved me to get a lot of it, I guess. And some people would say, "What? Get what?" You know? It really is like lenses. Mm-hmm. So many people are looking at it through whatever lens they have, and that lens could show them something completely different than a lens that I have, or you have, or someone else has, based off of their environment.
Worldview is very important. I mean, it literally drives people's decision making. The way that you see the world is going to affect how you make decisions.
And that's why augmented realities and these things that you were talking about on your last pod with Allison are so key for people to understand and take seriously, though. To at least know. That's what this has always been about anyway, is just, hey, awareness. You know, this stuff is there for you to go find. I always harp on this because it's still, it never ceases to amaze me, baffles me at how people will sit there and give their data point of view or their scientific point of view, instead of just looking at the facts of a particular thing or program or theory that has been poked, prodded, and presented, shown, facts, whether from truth seekers or doctors, or, I mean, a lot of the people talking about it aren't just people who are sitting here talking about the level of stuff we're talking about. Some of them are ex-military. What are we talking about here? Doctors, Western doctors at that. You know, scientists, technology. Information technologists, just different folks in different fields with different backgrounds that have worked with things and in things that just want people to know.
Right.
And information gets out there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the information age. So at that point, it just confuses me. So it leads me to believe that when we do talk about quantum technology and nanotechnology and all of these different things that, and the different things and methods that are used to skew mindsets. I mean, if we're talking about scrambling DNA, what do we think we're doing with brainwaves and thoughts and how those patterns and things can be manipulated?
Yeah.
Because
sound frequencies.
Because sometimes to me it's like nothing else makes sense. Nothing else makes sense to why that's not happening more. But you always do a good job of reminding me too. There are more people questioning things and asking questions and looking at things with a raised eyebrow, and that's happening as well. And I always want to acknowledge that too. But I guess I'm always fascinated at why are we not on the same page? The polarizing mechanisms that are used to create division, like right now, like what Ab Soul say, I'm dead in the middle looking around, or Kendrick said that on Ab's album, but I feel that way a lot of the times because I'm like, we could all be on the same page. I always go back to what the Missouri football team did when they weren't going to play games on Saturdays anymore until they got what they were demanding. It wasn't until then that they got what they were demanding.
Of course.
It takes that, but they came together, all of them, and did that. Mm-hmm. And we know that's not what they want, and that can't happen, and that's why you can go from now 6 feet to 3 feet. Don't get too close, people. We're at 3 feet now, okay? Remember that.
Is that real?
That's real G.
Okay.
That's CDC real G. That's how much they think of us.
They went
that's
from
the
6 to 3.
That's the mockery that's the level of mockery.
I
people.
haven't been.
Oh, I know. I understand. No, of course. Listen, the funny thing is, a lot of the status quo PC stuff that I even know about is because it's talked about on social media platforms. And obviously, I'm a bit of a Twitter
Socialist
head.
media.
There we go. Censored media. But just uncensored enough where you could still see, people share things. And it's interesting that people can read something like that and say, that is what is going to be the difference between me doing what's right and wrong. Standing 3 feet apart and getting my jab, getting my poison jab,
getting my Fauci ouchie.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that, and I almost barfed
funny.
in my mouth.
Man, that's a good T-shirt right there, Fauci ouchie. Yeah.
I got my Fauci ouchie.
Got my Fauci ouchie. What a madman holding a needle. That's a good one. But we say this tongue in cheek, but that's the thing. It's like we're actually living in that right now.
That guy he actually meant it. He wasn't joking.
And we're actually living in that right now.
Yeah, no, I know.
No. You guys did okay this go around. Now you can get 3 feet apart, people.
Yeah.
What is this? So when I and it's so many other things. It's so many levels to it, and I love that you get the subject matter experts on things as layered. Going back to what I was saying about peeling back that layer, as Ben Stewart and Allison and folks that are, and so many more people that are trying to get it out in their own way. It's what we love about B.O.B. I mean, this dude Bob said, I can make a song like Airplanes. I can do all of this. But that's not what I'm trying to do. He can make a hit right now. Radio hit, probably go number 1. Got the little pop vibe. He can do all of that. What does he choose to do though? That's a message in itself. He chooses to make elements. He chooses that tape. Why is it escaping my memory right now? The last
Naga. Oh,
the tape. The specialty. He only dropped this album on cassette tape.
Yeah. It's right behind you.
Yeah.
But no, literally, like it's right behind your shoulder
Bob,
blades.
I promise you, we know what it is. It's just escaping our memory.
No, it's literally, it's like right behind you.
Oh, literally. Yes.
Yeah, open that.
What is this? I gotta click the red part.
No, you just open it. You literally just open it.
Oh yeah, see,
It's a tape
I haven't
cassette
used one
player.
of these in a while. It's a tape player, guys. Bob said, if you want to get more of this shit, you gotta get a tape.
8 straight 80 status.
Murd
by Mercy.
Murd and
Murd
Mercy.
and Mercy. Yeah.
Murd and
It was a
Mercy.
Halloween drop.
But it's my point in bringing all of that up is he chose what was right, what was truth, what was real, what was authentic. Going back to what I was saying earlier.
But I feel like a lot of times, man, I do have to say this. I'm gonna speak up or play advocate for the quote unquote sheep for a second, like, because I was one, you know.
We all were.
Yeah.
You know, we
Right.
all were.
So, and I feel like there are people that, and I say this from experience. I've said things authentically that, looking back on it, although when I said it authentically, I actually disagree with what I said now. But so I was being authentic then and I'm being authentic now, but I happen to disagree with my own self. So how does that work?
But you recognize growth. You recognize, understand. You
So, but that's
recognize
my-
that
but my
part of
point
the
is-
human experience and being.
My point in saying that is that I think everybody's at their own spot in their own journey.
Absolutely.
And so somebody can say something I disagree with, and the same person can say the same thing, and one of them I like and another one I don't like, because one of them said it authentically and
Right.
the other one is just regurgitating some other shit that they heard.
Right.
And they're on their own team. They've sold their soul to like something outside of themselves.
Right.
You know, so they could be saying the exact same thing, and I could literally like be okay with one of them and not be okay with the other one, because I feel like one person's speaking from their heart and another person is speaking from a place of trying to deceive.
Very true. And when you have that
Nuance.
when you even can think at that part, you usually can feel it too. You can
It's-
feel that
it
energy. You
is-
can sense
it is what it is. It's a feeling.
First of all, you've already, to even be talking about it, to even be halfway close to where a lot of those levels go, you have at least started to understand your intuition.
Intuition is a big word. I like that
Well,
word.
Intuition is a key
It's a
word.
mystery. It comes from the mystery. It comes
Exactly.
from source. It's
Because
a
it's a
knowledge that we
field.
can't explain how we know it.
Exactly, but it's a beautiful thing that let's see, Dr.
I think it's godly,
Dr.
man.
Sabi said,
Spiritual.
a horse come out knowing how to be a horse.
Right.
You don't tell a horse how to be
That's
a horse. when
literally
it's born.
Don Miguel literally says that. He's like, you don't have to train your heart how to beat.
So when you stop listening to everything and you start to listen to yourself,
Your own body.
you can then start to
Yeah.
look. None of us have any of this figured out. We're all moving along together.
But it's
once
important
again,
to question. It comes back to that same thing I said earlier. I would rather have a question I can't answer than an answer I can't question. And that's what a lot of the people that would love for us to perceive them as authority, I no longer perceive. I perceive damn near 100% of them as frauds, if not 100% of them.
were you referring to like bosses and stuff like that?
Just politicians.
Oh, yes.
CEO, people on television,
people on television, all of that.
Right, celebrities.
Yeah.
Now there might be is Don Miguel a celebrity? At what level do you draw the line? I think there are some real people that are semi-famous or famous. But,
some
but the vast majority.
It's always going to be diluted, though.
The vast majority of celebrities, politicians, just people that you see in magazines and on television is really the way to sum it up the best. Vast majority of them are not real.
Of course.
Not real at all. And
very plugged into the propaganda, very plugged into the agenda. And listen, ultimately,
but I don't even want to hate on them either.
I don't.
I feel like they're teaching us.
I don't.
A lesson.
Allison said it great earlier on that. Allison said it great. At informed decisions, knowing both sides of everything, understanding the truth is only then can people make really informed decisions and choices and actually be thinking for themselves. But because that's not the case, is where those folks and things that we were just talking about become an issue. It's not about hating on anything. Nobody's
right.
But
I do think it's important to understand that this
another
person
word that's been weaponized.
Does business with this person, and this company is bringing in the augmented reality, bringing in the spatial web, the Web 3.0, the geofencing. I do think the work that she's doing is important. I think, really, I would like to actually expand on something I said at the end of that episode, where it's like, I think, when you talk about the track of love and the track of fear, it's like love, when you love your country or when you love humanity and you see something that is preventing that love from shining or that love from being expressed, you want to solve that issue. You want to solve that problem.
It's the human in you, G.
And so what the work that she's doing, although it scares me on a level of just being real, it scares me. And it's like, well, damn, is she a fearmonger? But I'd absolutely 1000% disagree with that, because she's being real, and all she's doing is she's addressing issues, addressing problems that we need to solve.
Right.
Otherwise, we're going to be turned into basically mechanized slaves, digital slaves. And so if we want to keep our humanity about us, we do need to be aware of the decisions that we're making right now in the next few years, because it's really closer. It could be closer. Their plans are there.
Right.
All she's doing is letting
people
know what their plans are.
Literally.
It's literally their shit that she's putting out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She's not making this shit up.
That's what this comes back to with a lot of this stuff.
But
I see
she's coming from a
know.
place of love.
Right.
I don't, it's love is an energy that it seems paradoxical, but fear is going to be scared of what you fear the most.
Yeah.
And love is going to address
right.
that which you fear the most, so that it can heal it and transform it and make it love. Transform it into
the thing about the fear mongering is whether someone accepts truth as fear, reality, uncertainty and anxiety and depression. There's a lot of ways to experience anything, but it is what it is. Just like everything else that people like us, before us, books, philosophers, truth tellers, just people just letting whatever level of it is that continues to reign true and be right and prove itself true to so many different things. Books that were written in the 70s, literally depicting a lot of the things that we're seeing and hearing about now. People can feel however they want to feel about certain things, fear mongering or not. What are you supposed to do about reality or truth? What else are you supposed to do with it? Whether they take it as fear or not.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's truth.
Right. And you should embrace it.
Embracing
embracing the truth is love. No matter how scary it can feel in the moment of, oh damn, my worldview, I need to shift my worldview because the way I'm currently operating is not aligned with reality.
Right.
And so it's like, am I going to be stubborn and say, nah, I'm going to disregard this truth because it scares me? It's like, nah, I think what I would rather do is share the information, try to solve the problem on a communal level or on whatever level is possible. You know, she even said it doesn't matter. We don't need to scale hundreds of thousands of people.
Send a dandelion.
15 people, you know?
Send a dandelion and
well, I think the thing about a dandelion is it's a symbolic too.
No.
Because it grows in between concrete cracks.
It
grows in places that they don't want, organic.
And that was a great way that she broke that down as well.
You know, it finds cracks. It finds a way.
But my other point of that is,
and they're hard to get rid of.
But my other point in saying that is, it doesn't take much to just. It's not. You do with it as you wish, but it is, my dad always would say you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
Everyone's heard that saying before, and it's just one of those things where, look, here it is, Now, once you receive that, if you're in a state of wondering, wow, what can I do with that? What do I do with that? Here's a group of people who have already been through that, have had those feelings, and have decided and chosen to walk in that direction together as a tribe. You can choose to join that tribe and face that fear, or you can choose to stay plugged into that lane and be fearful and let it control you, because that's fear is control. At least a lot of the powers that be it is. And or use it in a way that doesn't nobody any good, but that is part of it. That is, for fear or not, it's interesting because I feel like we're all, reality is there's things that you might fear or that scare you or that make you uncertain, realities you don't want to touch, whether it's even seeking that information or understanding certain things that we talk about. That does not change the bigger picture. That does not change the end result of actions and decisions from ignoring these things, though. And there are plenty of people and folks in our community and our tribe that come together and they talk. And like she said, it was 25 people in New York and they came together. And that's only 25. It's, you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. What are you going to do with the information that you receive? Are you going to let that fear control you? Or are you going to go down rabbit holes and seek knowledge and seek understanding and seek truth? And complement that with, what are you going to do to combat it? What are you going to do to move forward in a way that...
I've always... That's always been kind of a big thing for me as someone that... took philosophy classes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say everybody was like this, but I went to like a liberal arts private school, and a lot of the kids that went there were very well off. Like I was one of the less well off kids there. You know what I mean? And there's just a lot of like intellectualism, I would call it. Like a lot of just.
I'm one upping you on how I can talk.
my theory is this is what my and they're just it's all about
the talk.
Exactly.
I've noticed the talk.
Yeah.
I'm the type of work that I do.
It's all about sounding smarter than the other person.
When you can perfect that language, I call it talk that talk.
Right.
It's a language.
But then there are some intellectuals that are legitimately
nothing is
their vocabulary is because you say that, and then I think of this guy Robert Thomas or my friend Ethan Franz.
Right.
Both very much. I mean, IQ points higher than me, and I consider myself relatively smart. I mean, I'm far from like genius level, but these guys were smart, and at the same time they were real. Even though they approached, their childhoods were clearly very different than mine, you know what I mean? And I can see that they don't understand like street knowledge like I do by any means.
Right.
But they're real. Like Robert Thomas, his I guess what you call it, the capstone, his senior project was on the nature of consciousness. So I was like, this guy's real. I don't care what anybody says about him.
The nature of consciousness back in college, even thinking about to talk.
Well, because he was a sciencey kind of guy, and he felt like science was behind because it wasn't addressing how consciousness interacts with our physical reality. So, and he was, he was a double major, a physics and philosophy double major. So the philosophy part of him was like, why isn't physics addressing our consciousness? We are obviously conscious. What is it? How how does it interact with reality? What is consciousness? You know what I mean? And so I was like, yeah, this dude is smart. He can talk smarter than me. He can put me down all he wants, but he's real. I'll fuck with him. You know what I mean?
Me down all he wants.
And then the other guy, his name was Ethan Franz. He was double major in psychology and philosophy. Mm-hmm. Also a brilliant dude and also a real dude. You know what I mean? I mean, some people just happen to be smart and real, and they just happen to come from a background where they might not have that street knowledge.
Nothing is 100% either way. There's always going to be a percentage of that rare, like, that's rare. That's I didn't expect.
But aside from those two who came to mind, there was a large.
Of course.
Pretty much all the other philosophy students were just trying to out-talk the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
but my whole point of saying all of that is, what is theory without application? And I think even Allison said something about it on our podcast. It's like, if you're not applying what you supposedly know, I mean, you can say you know something, but if you're not actually applying it, then do you really know it?
Right.
Really?
Right.
And what is knowledge at that point?
Or are you just riding a wave, or what you consider to be maybe a trend?
Right.
Or, the way that the word woke has been diluted at this point, it makes me think of that. I know a little bit shift of gear, but it relates to that, like, what is, when you can't apply it.
When it's corporate sponsored.
It's a tactic. Yeah. It's done on purpose. It's not done on accident. And it's like, wow. You start to be able to just see it. It's like you're standing here and you see it out in front of you, and you just see it being woven as you move along in it. Oh man. Oh, they got woke now. Oh man. They found a way to change the narrative on this.
On Bitcoin.
Yes.
I mean, Bitcoin 2 years ago, JP Morgan's like, it's a scam. But now
you got companies turning their bank
their investment portfolio is half Bitcoin. Whatever. I don't know, but they've changed their tune. Let's just put it that way.
The script, the narratives, they're interesting when you can see them that way. It's very hard to explain, G.
It is.
Sometimes
and it's
you don't understand it unless you're in someone's head, and you obviously are not in anyone's head but your own head. But it's like...
But you know what makes it impossible to explain is when the language that you're using
doesn't fit. You
talked
about it. It's not built to explain it.
To explain
you
spiritual matters.
You actually, and you've said this one time, and I've used it so many times because it reigns true. You start to distort you start to distort it when you talk about it. Because the
moment
language
that
doesn't
you start using
fit
words
it. Doesn't fit.
Is not the light. It's not it. It's not what it is. Even what it is, those are just 3 words, 3 syllables, 3 sounds that we've all agreed means, he's talking about reality. So it represents reality. Is represents, the state of being of reality. And what is just the subject of what he's referring to. I mean, and even everything I just said is just like a broken down explanation of these words, these agreements, these sounds in our head, and until people can, and I don't want to say people like, I'm not people, until I can and everyone on a collective level can reach the awareness of understanding that the majority of what we think we know is nothing but sounds in our head and stories that we choose to believe or not to believe.
Because since we were kids, we've only been told things, people. I mean, whether it's a story,
it comes back to worldview.
Something that when we were shown,
is sight.
Told, it always, like everything that we know today.
Even the Illuminati, they try to tell us with the fucking eyeball. That is true knowledge, is seen. That's why they call magicians and the holy ones, the medicine men, seers. They see. They just see.
Now you
light.
see me.
Right.
The movie, that movie, Eisenberg, Jesse Eisenberg, and other actors, obviously, but it just relates to what you just said. Now you see the magicians.
Mm-hmm.
You can't
see what you don't see.
It's
like we were talking about earlier. You only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. You only see what you see. You don't see what you don't see.
And it's funny because when we started this pod off, but wrapping it back to that at whole, this is what it's about.
Exploring worldview, sharing worldviews. For me, it's about, and Ben Stewart talks about this.
Right.
It's like when you reach the level of teacher or the level of master.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a good part of that.
But there's another way to break that down. He broke it down into 3 levels.
Right.
But you can even simplify it even to 2 levels. Teacher and learner. Once you become the teacher or the master of any experience or concept, whatever, like in this moment right now, I could be teaching you something, but then if you're the type of person, if you're a true teacher, if you're a true open-minded person, then you're learning as you're teaching, and you're teaching as you're learning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're a true learner and you're soaking up the information, and you're like bringing your experience to that, then the teacher is going to pick up on how you respond to his teachings, and he's learning from that. And so there's always this flow, this dynamic flow. And anyone who deems themselves like authority, like you have nothing else to learn, like you've learned it all, like that is someone to not trust.
Stay away from.
I mean, and I don't want to sow seeds of distrust. I think, we need to learn to trust each other better. But at the same time, you want to trust your intuition. And if there's that type of energy out there that thinks that they know better than anybody or better than you, even if they do know better than you, if they think that they have nothing to learn from you, then don't worry about teaching them anything anyway. Don't take that personally. Don't sweat it.
There's one right way to do this thing.
Right.
This thing.
And Daniel, that's literally what Daniel Quinn says. He says the indigenous worldview is that there is no one right way to live. Just like there's no one right way to slice a loaf of bread. Just like there's no one right way to cut your back lawn. There's no one right way to do a lot of fucking things in this world. But we have been systematically brainwashed to think that everything is supposed to fit in these perfect little squares, and everything is systematized. Like the system is systematized to program us to think that everything is just on schedule and like programmable. And there's, they hate chaos. Allison said it. They hate chaos. They don't like things that they feel like they can't control.
They hate chaos, but they love to create it too.
Only if they can control it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They control.
Most of it is controlled chaos.
Yes,
because first of all,
they love that.
One of the things that they underestimated was us actually getting out here and doing the shit that they use actors to show, to make it look like they were out here doing.
They give them.
We're not doing it, people. We're not doing it. White, black, all the other extra stuff that's being shown. It is not. If people only understood how deep that actor level of things go, the roles that people are willing to play to be comfortable.
Don Miguel's.
And now you barely have to use them now, because AI is so advanced with the deep fake stuff that you can just create it. It ain't even real, people.
So I highly recommend.
Are we still thinking that half of the shit we're seeing is real, folks?
So listen, I highly, highly, highly recommend Don Miguel's newest book. Is called The Actor. Because we're all actors, and the world is a stage.
World is a stage.
And this is, you think the Four Agreements is deep? This shit, yeah. Highly recommend The Actor to anybody listening. Basically, we're all actors. We all act. I'm acting different right now than I would around my grandmother.
Very sure.
Or around my dad, or around your dad. Or if Kenny and LT were here.
Yeah.
Everyone is affected by everything.
Yep.
And to me, it's just like, you have to be able to be real with yourself at the end of the day. Because if you're faking yourself, then you're lost to a point where the only thing that can save you is you, not Jesus. Jesus' teachings might be able to help you see the light. But if you think that, Jesus is your one and only savior, and you can't learn from Buddha, and you can't learn from Muhammad, and you can't learn from your son or daughter or mom and dad or grandma or uncle or aunt or cousin or friend or coworker, that's something that you're gonna have to learn the hard way. I mean, you can't be like me telling you that you're wrong. Like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe Jesus is, but you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be real at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, there is no information that you should exclude and say that's not, it doesn't come from authority. Okay, well, who made that person authority? I love we talk about B.O.B. Every time you come on, we end up talking about B.O.B. a little bit. But
it really is underrated, what he did, and it really is truly, and I know he has. But that one
bar, there's this one bar on Already There, the B.O.B. versus Bobby Ray mixtape. Yep. He says, "Some people don't ask why, but I ask why I ask why."
It has that level, that layer.
That's what we're trying to get at, is like, you have to be willing to question yourself. Everything I'm saying right now, like, even when I say something and it sounds like I'm saying it as like ultimate truth, like maybe it is my ultimate truth. But don't trip. Like, I'm questioning myself 100% of the time. You know what I mean? Like, and, sometimes I try to be more confident and just go with what I'm feeling. But there's always a moment where I'm going to reflect on, what I said or did and think, like, was that the best way I could have worded that? Or was that, like, what I really meant to say there? I'm a perfectionist, and I don't, even though one of my beliefs is that everything is perfect, like, part of perfection is like critiquing yourself too, and growing. And I don't believe perfection is stagnant. In fact, I think that's one of the biggest deceptions about reality, is like, they say nothing's perfect and no one's perfect, but that's because they sell you this image of perfection that is incapable of ever being reached. And what's really perfect is being curious and exploring life, exploring your mind, exploring your psychology, exploring other people's minds, exploring different world views, questioning your own worldview, challenging your own worldview, challenging your body to take cold shower, see how temperature you can stand in a sweat lodge or a sauna, take an ice bath,
the things
breathing exercises.
The things like I was telling my dad as he's going through his health.
You have to stretch your mind, your body, your soul.
There are things,
and experience everything.
There is a lot
experience all of life.
There is a lot of stuff out here. Keyword here, stuff. There's a lot of stuff out here. There are very few things of that stuff that actually matters.
Right.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's like we were talking about control system, pineal gland. We in a space where matter don't matter, just spirit molecules and geometric patterns. And that's and that's the spiritual level. I mean, what's funny is what I was just talking about questioning your own self. I see Ab looking at that line in that bar and saying, damn, matter does matter. I was just being like extra spiritual in that moment.
I can imagine the shit that Ab says.
Because he's the type of person who questions himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
So it's like, matter matters, but at the same time, like the time and place that he put that out.
Yeah.
That was 2012, man. Like that whole album just shifted.
The man can barely see, G.
But what
that raises that superpower.
Right.
It turns
other senses are heightened
into a superpower.
And when you're a musician and you can hear those
and you can
sounds,
use that sort of wordplay,
right,
and word magic, as you like to call it. I really do like that term you use, word magic.
I'm gonna let you borrow that book. I finished it.
I need to borrow that book.
That's a good one.
Because it really is.
Everything. It's all... Words have frequencies to them based on the letters that make them up. And every letter has its own frequency.
Right.
Its own number associated to it. Numerology, I think there is a lot to numerology.
Well, at this point, in my experience and journey, it has to be. You can roll your eyes all you want to at things. You have to be a damn fool that when you see certain things all the time play out that way, and things prove to be truth or right, consistent, or quote unquote, my favorite thing to talk about, coincidental.
Right.
The thing I don't believe in, coincidental. What are you left with? What are you left with at that point?
Yeah.
Besides let me see what this is about, at least.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. So
you know,
my current stance on numerology is like, I have come to believe that there is a lot to it. That it is almost like a language, like a language that underwrites our reality. However, it's not. We were just talking about with Allison, and she said it too. Like, we all have our place, and I'm starting to like. Although I am cool with like exploring numerology and some of these like word magic, I'm not gonna be.
You can't get lost in it.
That's not my thing.
Of course.
Some people are going to write books on it. Some people, that's going to be their thing.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like being able to read a book on it and entertain myself and, bring myself to a certain level of knowledge about that. Numerology is not going to be my thing. Right. I love it. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really cool. I'm going to, as the field itself evolves,
as your experience grows, things that because you did take the time to at least understand it and know about it, you can relate certain things to certain things might make sense. That's how I look at a lot of it. Now,
I feel like what I'm going to bring to the world is a Toltec, and I don't. That
is you, G.
The thing about the Toltec, the thing I love most about the Toltec is like, it's the word itself. Toltec is like artist of the spirit.
Right.
And so, when I say like I want to promote a Toltec worldview, I'm not even promoting a worldview. I'm promoting you questioning your worldview and seeing and promoting your unconditional love for yourself and seeing everyone else in all the universe, from plants, animals, bacteria. We are truly all one. And I know that sounds like some true hippie shit, but when you really embrace that truth that we're all one, then you can see these blockchain players and these central bankers as like not necessarily enemies, but more like babies on a spiritual level, and people that we need to like show like, hey man, we're not going to kill you. You know, I understand you fucked up. You know, you understand you fucked up. You got a lot of bread. You got a lot of energy. Just share some, bro. Let's have some fun. Let's make this world a big party. Yeah. You know?
Because it really can be.
It could be that.
It could be that.
And I don't want to sound like it's a big party, like we should all be getting drunk and having a big hangover. No, I'm talking about we need to have sustainable fun, heal ourselves, you know, share our stories with each other, share our beliefs with each other. I mean, the fact that sharing our beliefs is taboo just shows how backwards of a society that we're living in. And I love, man, it seems like every episode, I've talked about Don Miguel a lot already this episode, but every episode I think of another analogy, right? So from The Mastery of Love, the very first chapter is called The Wounded Mind. And he talks about an analogy, and it's so funny that we're living in coronavirus right now, because the analogy that he makes is, imagine the whole world had a skin disease, and we couldn't touch each other or it would hurt. That's kind of how we are with our worldviews, with our beliefs. Yeah. Nobody wants to touch each other's worldviews or challenge each other's worldviews because we're all sick with a disease called fear.
Fear, I'm telling you, G.
We're scared to challenge our own worldview. We're scared to challenge other people's worldviews because they might fight us.
Right.
But what if we're coming from a place of love? We're curious. I'm not trying to say Muhammad's not the savior. Why do you think he's the savior? You know?
Why do you think he's the savior?
I'm just trying to have a conversation here.
But because there are systems that have programmed reactionary people, reactionary militants. Mm-hmm. You know, do you see him on social media? You see him. You know, you barely see a lot of the things we see on TV and social media in real life, though.
Right. I know. Screens.
I've been out here for 32 years. It's not that long of a time, but let me tell you, it's long enough. It's long enough.
It's a programming.
It's funny how, and I ask my dad this all the time. My dad is 83 years old. I said, man, you've seen so many eras. You've seen so many transitions of this narrative that is just always being upgraded, recycled, and evolved, and recycled. When, in your 83 years, have you seen most of the shit that you subscribe to through news, through media, and through whatever you've been told or taught along the way, to the shit that you see in real life with your own two eyes, with your own human experience? How much of it is what you see on that screen? He can't really answer that. And I guarantee you that when we are that age, if we're blessed enough to get to that age, somebody could ask us the same question, G. And it would be exactly how I feel right now at 32.
Most of the wild shit I've seen in real life has been people drunk or on drugs.
Literally.
And everything else just seems like
none of what you selling me and none of what you've been telling me is anything I've ever truly experienced firsthand.
Right.
Racism, all of this shit. Everything that you're packaging up and manufacturing and selling me.
But you're from Middlesex. You never experienced racism. Bruh. You're going to tell me you never experienced racism?
I am not ignorant enough to understand that racism and classism doesn't exist. It exists. in the minds of people.
Right, but it's not to the extent that our media would want.
Has the experience been?
No, I feel
for most people.
No, I would.
And listen, social media will make you sit back.
I agree with you. I just want to
for
balance
sure.
both sides,
and that's absolutely, but
because there are definitely some fucking racist ass people out here.
Absolutely.
But I think it is overblown to a large degree.
Either you are...
When people talk about systematic racism, 95% of the shit that they say is garbage. You know what I do listen to, though? Incarceration rates.
Oh yes, I listen to human.
When you look at some of those stats, it's like, okay, there is.
I don't want anybody to think that.
And
I don't want anybody to think that is where I'm coming from.
No,
okay?
I know.
Bottom line.
Of course, you're not. Of course.
My point in saying that is, I am focusing time, energy, and attention on human experience.
Right.
I want to know what you have experienced, not what you've been told or shown,
right?
But true stories from people that could sit down and say, James, you know what? Back in this time, and when I was doing this, and this was that, and everything else, this is what I experienced. This is what happened to me. Share that true human experience. Not something that's manufactured, not something that's propagandized, not something that's pitted to put you in a category of left or right, or red or blue,
or wealthy or rich,
or classized. Right, yes, from classism,
blue collar or white
collar,
but
true human experience.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
That is what I'm interested in hearing. I'm just saying I don't hear it as much. Look, you do see a lot of it on social media. You go through the comments, you see a little bit of that there. But then you do remind yourself, damn, Twitter.
Trolls.
Not only that, we are in a time in which you are unfortunately very mistaken if you don't realize the power of bots.
Right.
There is a lot of things and algorithms and some very creative technologies out here that create things that seem, sound, and look so real. You know?
Mm-hmm.
From comments to the way things are structured to the way the narratives are painted and created. You would be surprised at the power of algorithm, folks. Yeah. And when you start to understand those true... You realize that you only can really go off of this right here.
That's the human vibration episode.
Right,
if you're more interested in what James is talking about right now, go back, listen to episode 22, Human Vibration. She talks about John Benet Ramsey. I mean, she lays it out. Is John Benet Ramsey most likely not a real person at all? Computer generated.
Most of the things that are blown up, sensationalized.
And that's the first one. That was like a test.
Most of the things that are shown that are carried out in different parts. I mean, they are literally retelling the story of John Benet Ramsey again. They're keeping it alive for a reason. It's polarizing. It's energy zapping. And they're doing it, and it's with a lot of figures. A lot of figures. And when you start to really peel back those layers that we've been talking about, you start to see.
Well, that's exactly what I was.
It's a rinse and repeat. It's a rinse and repeat with a lot of things.
You know what a lot of people are going to have. The first thing that a lot of our friends are going to say to us is, "Why? What's the point of doing that?"
Gee, I'm gonna let you talk about the whys of this.
So, Don, because I feel like, you know, a lot of this conspiracy stuff, sovereignty movement, Fourth Industrial Revolution, the things that Ben Stewart talks about, I'm not going to try to copy anybody else anymore. Like, if there's anybody I'm going to quote-unquote copy, it's Don Miguel, and even him, you know, I said something on Twitter, I don't know if you saw it, it was actually a few months back now. It was like, you know, the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't believe your assumptions. Mm-hmm. Number 4, always do your best. Number 5, be skeptical but learn to listen. And then I skipped down. I said, I understand that number 3 is not exactly how Don Miguel wrote it, but I'm my own person.
Mm-hmm.
And Don Miguel liked it. Because that's what he's teaching, is that we're all our own person. And although out of everyone I've ever read, out of every artist I've ever experienced, he's one that I would say resonates most deeply on like a spiritual heart chakra level. But at the same time, I've never met him in person. You know, I can't say your lower 3 chakras are like your tribe and like where you come from, your family, your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Your girlfriends, your sexual partners, all that sort of stuff. And then the top 3 are like your intellectual teachers, your gurus, you know. So Don Miguel definitely would be there, but my whole point in saying what I just said is it's not like I'm following Don Miguel.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, when I do podcasts like these, it's his metaphors and his stories that I feel whenever we get in the midst of some of these conversations, the way that he articulates some of his experiences, as you would put it, I feel like not only am I able to articulate it well because I've read his stuff and it resonates with me on a level where it's like I feel like I can put it in my own words. Mm-hmm. And I'm still being real. Like I'm borrowing from him, but I'm still being myself, and I'm still being real. And I don't feel like I'm copying him or like posing off of him.
Look, hip hop has taught us that you respect the greats, you respect the legends of whatever lane it is that you choose. And for hip hop, it's rapping. Okay, yeah. It's the art of that, right? Whether it's evolved from artists that do trap or whatever the case is. You know, you've 9 times out of 10, you've got your style, your flow from your level of respect and fondness of a sound from an artist or artist that really captivated you at a point in time. That you've learned, it made you fall in love with a sound. It made you fall in love with a flow. It made you fall in love with a cadence. It made you fall in love with a rhyme pattern. And you have taken all of those, and you have made it your own. That's with anything,
art.
G. That's art.
Yeah, man. So I want to connect back to what I was saying about, like when you were talking about the human vibration and the deep fakes, and then I said, you know, somebody might ask like, why? Like, what's the point of them doing that? You know? And you said I'm gonna let you tell the why. And then I was about to make another Don Miguel metaphor, but I went off on a little bit of a tangent of like how I'm not. I really don't. I don't feel like I'm copying him, you know. And some people might try to make that criticism of me or say I'm culturally appropriating or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm making it my own style. I love Don Miguel, and I appreciate everything that he's done for my life and his sons. His sons actually, I even like their writings even more because you know they're closer to my age, and you know their language is a little bit even more tuned, mm-hmm. even more dialed into like the way that I think. But anyhow, the whole point is the why, right? Why would they be running these deep fakes to extract our energy? You know, like what is the point of that? So Don Miguel talks about in Beyond Fear how what the Gnostics called archons and you know, tribes of the past have called them gods, demons, demiurges, demigods, angels, elves. You know,
depending on who you ask and how they were looking at it, whether they were
right.
angel or demon.
Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, the Gnostics call them archons. And basically what they are is they're non-physical entities that are like attached to humans in an ethereal way. They feed off of our emotions. And, you know, not all of them are bad. You know, they're not all bad or all good, just like people aren't all bad or all good. But for the most part, at least during this part of the cycle, the energetic cycle, the great cycle, they're feeding off of our fear. And fear is easier for them to create. And so, you know, for right now, they're just doing everything they can to create as much fear as possible because that's their food. They don't eat food the way that we do. They eat emotional energy, ethereal energy. And so they push humans to create traumas in their lives so that they can feed off of this emotional energy. And the only way to combat it is to love unconditionally and to use your traumatic experiences as teachers instead of as, oh, woe is me. This horrible thing happened to me. Why me? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, everybody's had something. Everybody's had some sort of adverse. Can't think of the word right now, but adversity. Everybody has struggled through some sort of adversity, and so it's like, yeah, no matter what happens to anybody, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to discount anybody's troubles or anybody's handicaps or anybody's struggles, but at the same time, like, who's gonna, like, people can help you, but at the end of the day, the only person that can heal anything to a full degree is yourself. Yeah.
It starts with self. First of all,
answer the question of why put out deep fakes is, it's easier if they don't have to use real people and commit real murders and real sacrifices, if they can just put it on a screen and have you believing that it's real people and have you believing in whatever story that they put out. The same energetic effect
still happens.
Then their cost is less, and they still get as much benefit, if not more.
First of all, you're manifesting Don Miguel on this podcast.
That's my
it's going to happen.
Everybody's a teacher and everybody's a student. And
it's going to happen, Jay. I'm telling you right now, what's today's date? April.
Oh, you mean you want me to get him on the podcast?
I'm saying it's going to happen.
I might get his son.
Watch.
I'm gonna try to get his son. I'll ask his son.
I understand. Watch.
But Don Miguel, number one, Spanish is his first language, and I've listened to interviews with him in podcasts, a few podcasts that he's been on, and I love him to death. But I just think the conversation is a little too. We've lived very different lives, man.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas his sons, I feel like we could have a back and forth.
That might be that,
and it would be, they could understand where I'm coming from a little bit more. I think. But yeah, man, we got like 4 minutes. What you think? What's your closing thoughts?
Well, one thing I'll say, G. I always say this. I always think I end my episodes with this. I love what you're doing. I love what we're doing. I love that this connects like-minded, open-minded, free-spirited, independent-thinking individuals. I love the people that will run across this in their own journey. And there are folks out here who are going to be touched by an episode, a quote, a saying, a person that you've talked about, I've talked about, a thing, a theory, or whatever that leads them to their own experience or journey or rabbit hole, whatever the case is. Right, yeah. I love knowing that that's what this is doing.
Do you still like the rabbit hole term?
Yes.
I don't.
I do.
Doesn't mean Human Vibration talked about it a little bit, though.
I know she did. I know. Listen. What do you call it? What better term? Well, you can rename it if it makes it feel better, but it's still what it is. You start somewhere, and sometimes things, what you run across, what you experience, what you read, whatever, one thing could lead you down a completely different road that opens a whole nother hole. It's how it works, though. ADHD in itself makes it work better in that aspect too, because you get lost in some rabbit holes.
When you get to the end game, it's like, what's a rabbit hole? At the end of the rabbit hole, the rabbit's burrow is darkness. And I feel like
but it's a hole. You can crawl back about that hole.
Yeah.
It's whether you choose to stay buried down there and not come up.
Right.
But that doesn't change what it is.
No, I feel like
because there are things that lead people places. Sometimes.
I see your point, but I think to better articulate what you're trying to say, or what the term rabbit hole is trying to say,
Right.
is something that, unfortunately, I'm not well versed in Hindu, or like the Hindu culture, Eastern Asian culture. But I remember Ben Stewart saying something about one of the cycles in the Hindu tradition, of like the ascended masters. And it's like, once you've reached pure enlightenment, you know, you don't just stay in heaven and like disregard everybody else. You know, you go back down.
Yeah.
You go back into the psychological depths of not seeing clearly, and learning, and kind of like going through the mud, I think would be like a street way of saying it. You know, it's like, you can, no matter how much wisdom you have, what fun is that if you can't share that with the people that need it the most and that want it? You know, I mean, it's one thing, like you were saying, when you first get turned on to this kind of information, you're going out and you're trying to get everybody, all your friends and family, to see the way that you see it. And then you kind of refine yourself to a point, because you feel like you're wasting your energy when they're not listening. And so you start to pick the people that are listening, and that are picking it up, and that are growing with you.
Yeah.
And then you start to focus your energy on them instead, because you're wasting your energy on everybody, on the people that aren't growing with you.
It becomes even if you don't get it, it'll make you get it.
Right.
You just, that's how a lot of it works, man.
Yeah.
You know, and closing thoughts really are just, once again, that's what this is all about. You know, in that Alison McDowell episode that was on YouTube, it's been posted to the YouTube channel too, which I'm so happy made the YouTube channel as well. She shared it on hers, by the way. Go check it out. Just comments. Like, it's not about, and I said this earlier, it's not about even the good, the bad, the ugly, the critiquing, all of it, though. It's just raw human emotional, how they're perceiving your truth.
Right.
Truth in general.
Yeah. And
what you're trying to build, what you're trying to gain, what you're trying to get and share and show.
And just to be, you know, the type of person
the
I am,
reactions from
which, you know, some people might call me argumentative, but I think you're the type of person that enjoys it and embraces it. You know, it's like devil's advocacy. You know, the other side of that is like, you know, if I was to reach a point where I was getting a little bit more popular, you know, Alison McDowell, she's, you know, that video already has, almost 1,400 views. And, you know, I'm not anywhere near there yet. But just, you know, hypothetically, if I was to reach a point where I'm getting all of these comments on my videos or on my podcast, it's like, at the end of the day, you have to remember, like, don't take anything personally.
Oh, right.
And like,
right.
no matter how,
There's that side
even
of it too.
but even if 100% of the comments are positive, like, you know, they're positive because they liked what they heard. They still don't know what they don't know about me, and they might find out something that they don't like, and then end up hating me and turning on me because they liked me, and then they think that I'm like, you know, some person that is a fake or a fraud because I've gone against what I said. And it's like, well, you don't know what I was doing at that point in time in my life. Like, my life is a fucking, like Tyler the Creator said, I'm a fucking walking paradox.
You know
what I mean? Like, I'm a fucking walking paradox.
Like, what are you? You're perfect. Wait, what are you? You're
right.
Perfect?
Right.
Well, you got...
He said, I'm a fucking walking paradox.
I mean,
no, I'm not.
God, I love that art, man.
That's
That's
perfect.
one art that I love, bro. It's fucking
wordplay.
Man.
Yeah. Lyricism.
You're taking some shit like that, some real life stuff, some facts, some life stories, some observations, and you're taking it and you're just making it rhyme, and it has rhythm and flow, and you're painting a picture at the same time. It's a beautiful thing to do, and people that can just do it off top of the dome.
That's incredible.
The way your brain is wired, you have no idea what is probably lighting up in that brain on a whatever those machines are that show those brain patterns.
Like EKGs.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes. Whatever that is.
Yep.
But I tell you, G, I love doing this with you. I love that you have me a part of it, bruh. It's something that is organic. It's as organic as your garden, my garden, in greenhouses. And it's going to continue to grow. And the people that you are bringing, like I said, the different perspectives and topics that they're all plugged into, but all of it relates though. All of this relates to truth, and all of this relates to love, and all of this relates to wanting to share and get out information and create community, create tribe, and that's what it's about, man. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You're going to stay you, and that's going to attract the people, and it's going to be people, G, that you never ever thought you'd be able to connect with, maybe. But you realize you're all on the same plane. It's no different.
You know what's hilarious?
The knowledge, the information, the topics, the understanding, the approach, the look, the philosophy, all of that. No matter if it's someone as big as Don Miguel, or as you feel maybe different as Don Miguel from time periods or whatever, to you and Chris Piercy, the young, fresh blood of just seeing through that third lens and sharing that with people, and people are going to connect to it on their own journey. You know?
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
You know what's really funny is I just quoted Tyler, the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
When he first came out, I didn't like him.
Me too. I wouldn't say I called him. I do. Everybody in my life knows I got this thing where I'm like, yeah, I called that dude early. I called that artist early. I always felt like I just know a good artist. I don't think I called Tyler.
I didn't even like him. And one of the reasons I didn't like him is he, in that same song, he said, he starts out, I'm a fucking walking paradox. No, I'm not. And then later in the song, he says some shit about, he disses Immortal Technique and B.O.B.
Yeah.
You know that. And they're like, they were like, at the time, they were like two of my top five. And even to this day, they're top artists.
The kind of music that Bob was making, it was just his, I know.
But even Bob was like, I like how he's pushing the art, pushing the game. And then B.O.B. responded with like a semi diss track. It wasn't even a diss track, but you should check it out. It's called No Future.
Had a couple bars in there.
And
tell he was addressing some things.
Yeah, but then, Tyler comes back and he's like, okay, dude got bars. Like, there was like this respect that was gained between the two of them, and then.
But that's what it's about. Listen, Tyler has grown on me.
Right? No, same. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason I bring that up.
But that's what it's about.
It's a paradox in itself. Everything's a paradox.
Sometimes I do.
As long as you're being real.
Sometimes you can tell when an artist is very raw. A label has found an artist and they got him early, and they betted on that young man's potential, and they put a little money behind it and help it try to grow, and the good ones grow. So as someone who gets in on artists early, you can sometimes see the evolution of an artist. That's a beautiful thing when they're actually getting better and evolving as an artist. Look at the evolution of Mac Miller.
Swimming was, man, I keep a journal. And 7 days, man. August 31st, 2018, I have an entry in my journal. Mac Miller's swimming album is amazing. Period.
Artist evolution.
7 days later, he passed, man.
I know.
That shit fucked me up because I was like just getting. I felt like I was late to him too because as an Ab Soul fan, he's featured on a lot of Ab Soul songs.
Right.
And Ab was always talking about how dope Mac was. And so for me being a big Ab Soul fan, like I felt like I had like disrespected Mac by not listening to him.
Listen. The fact that Ab fucked with Miller like that.
Like that.
Tells you something.
Right. That should have told me enough right there, and I still wasn't giving him like the respect I feel like I should have. But then once swimming came out.
Me either, though. Me either.
When swimming came out, man, that shit was
I liked him.
Bruce,
I liked
I got the swimming vinyl hanging in my house.
No, you swear to it.
That is one of my favorite albums in music album. Ever.
It's period. A dope album. But it just shows that the evolution that's an artist. When that's you art. Do that,
that's art.
He's not just a rapper. Look at what else he's doing. Look at how he's doing it.
Right.
And when you really listen to those lyrics too.
Right.
When you listen to what he's saying,
it's just being real. He's just spitting his heart. He's just talking about his life experience. He's not trying to impress anybody. I don't feel other than himself. He's trying to one up himself. That's it. He's trying to improve, like you were talking about, his evolution, his growth. He's trying to improve on what he's done and make it better. You know, make his art better. I feel like your worldview is kind of like your art too. Yeah. You know, like we're all artists, and the way that we create our art, the way that we live our life is through our worldview. Like our actions, our decisions, everything that we do is because of how we believe the world operates. And if we believe that the world operates in a way that if we base our decisions and our behavior in these ways that aren't healthy, that aren't sustainable, then we're gonna.
That's keyword right there, sustainable.
That we're gonna do one of two things. We're gonna drive ourselves to extinction,
right?
Or we're gonna have to live in this digital, twinned world. You know, like Allison was saying, we're gonna rebuild the world, but we're gonna have to destroy it first. But we're not gonna tell you that until later. You know, and it's like, once the world is destroyed, that's gonna be our only option. If we don't say no, we don't want that. We would rather live in this organic world. And maybe we have technology that we can use and that we can adjust so that it's not destroying the planet.
Yeah.
But those are heady, high level.
Yeah, you know,
discussions.
It's a lot of
hopefully
people.
I mean, but you know,
you want a lot of people to wake up, man. You do. It's a lot of folks out here, bro, that just want to subscribe to what they're selling, man.
It's all about $1, and it's funny because it's like coming from a perspective of somebody that's always been about business and economics and money. And I've always resisted like the communist hippie vision. Although, you know, I support like cannabis and natural medicines.
Right.
I feel like there's a balance to be struck. And
it's a balance in it all.
But that's the point, is there is a balance to be struck from that money side of things, because man, it's like one of those memes that you see on the internet all the time. It's like, when the last animal has been killed and the last tree has been cut down and the last bee is dead and blah, 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 then we'll realize that money ain't worth shit. Yeah. You know?
It's always after the fact, though, G. We're a society, we're a culture of after the fact.
You think we're gonna destroy the earth before we wake up? Or you think we're gonna take it to the brink and then wake up?
It's just, I find it very interesting that what is not good.
And then there's the whole argument of like, is it humans that are really causing the climate change? I mean, we, regardless of whether or not we're causing climate change, it seems like we're putting a lot of pollutants in the air. We're putting a lot of pollutants in the water. We're putting a lot of pollutants in the soil. You know? Like, that can't be good, even if the earth is large enough and supreme enough to handle it.
Of course it can't be.
It can't be good.
Of course not. You know it, I know it. Intuition knows it.
But yeah, man, we covered a lot. I mean, I know we could talk on it forever, but we've already gone a little bit more than I expected. But it was good, man. It was good. Good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
As always, brother.
Much love.
AlieNation. It's been real. Love doing this with you guys. Continue to grow it. It's a family.
Question me. Like, don't take anything I say as the word. I'm just here to share perspective and allow you to question yourself. That's really my main goal. Question yourself. The answers are in your heart. I don't have the answers. Like, the answers for me are in my heart. And I feel like we all have different answers because we've all have different backgrounds and different stories that we're telling ourselves to make sense of this crazy world. So just be real with yourself at the end of the day. And my experience is people will feel that. And like, even from me, you know, as I was talking about earlier, I always reflect on my words, my actions, my behaviors. And when I feel most content with myself is when I feel like I'm just speaking from the heart and just being real, whether or not I'm not worried about being wrong, you know. And the times that I look back and I say, God damn, I sounded dumb there, it's because I'm trying to like articulate myself perfectly, or like say things in somebody the way that somebody else said it because it sounded good, when I'm not, you know, when I could just try to articulate it in my own way and speak from the heart. So I think really when it comes down to it, it's just about being real with yourself. And I know I've rambled a little bit here, but that's important to me.
Yes, sir.
That's all, man. Love.
Peace, love.